Okay, now moving on to question 4. Find the value of each expression when a equals -1, b equals 2, c equals 3, d equals 4, and e equals -2. This is a substitution question. That means we're going to substitute numbers in place of the letters so that we can then get an answer. So we've got b plus c plus e, and each of these letters stands for a number. We are going to substitute the number in place of the correct letter. So the letter B is standing for the number 2. So we're going to substitute the number 2 in place of the letter B. Plus C, which is value 3, so that's plus 3. Plus E, which is value -2, so plus -2. Okay, so that's the first stage, is to substitute the numbers in place of the letters. And now we have to evaluate it to get an answer. 2 add 3 is 5. And then we have plus -2. Okay, so adding a negative. When you're adding a number, you go to the right along the number line. When you're adding a negative number, you go to the left along the number line. So adding a negative is the same as taking away or subtracting. So we're going to subtract 2. So 5 subtract 2, the answer is 3. Right, the next one, it says A, B. So A is -1 and B is 2. Now you don't just put the numbers next to each other. Remember, AB means A times B, so it's the value of A times the value of B. So B has got a value of 2. Okay, then we've got plus CD. C has value 3. CD, C times D, 3 times 4. Okay, so that's the first stage, substituting the numbers in place of the letters. Now we're going to evaluate. So BODMAS rules, we do our multiply before we do our add. So we're going to do -1 times 2, which gives -2. I'll just put that in a bracket. Then we've got the plus. Do the multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so -2 add 12. So if you imagine your number line starting at -2, moving up 12 spaces, you end up at value 10. Okay, so the answer is 10. Right, the next one, introducing a wee bit more. 2b, so that's 2 times b, which is 2 times b has a value 2. 2 times 2 plus 3c, so it's plus 3c is 3 times c, and c has a value of 3. So it's plus 3 times 3. Take away 4e, so take away 4e is 4 times e, and e has a value of -2. Okay, so that's the number substituted. Now we need to evaluate it. So do the multiplication before we do the add or subtract. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 4 times -2 is -8. Okay, you could have done at that point -4 times -2, but I'll take care of the negative now. Right, so we have 4 add 9, which is 13. And then we've got take away a negative. So taking away, you move left on the number line, but taking away a negative, you move to the right, going up the number line, because taking away a negative is the same as adding. So we're going to add on the number 8. So the final answer is 21. Okay, question D. So it's A, B, C, D, E. So that means A times B times C times D times E. So A has a value -1 times B has a value 2 times C has value 3 times D has a value 4 times E is negative 2. And then once we've done all that, we'll divide the answer by 4. Okay, so negative 1 times 2 becomes negative 2. Negative 2 times 3 becomes negative 6. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. And negative 24 times negative 2, negative times negative is positive, so it becomes positive 48. Okay, so if you just think about it, you're multiplying all these numbers together, you've got one negative times another negative, so you know that they're the only negative numbers. So if you've got negative times a negative, that becomes positive, so you know your answer's positive. And then you just work along going 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 4 is 24, 24 times 2 is 48. And we still have got the divided by 4 to do. 48 divided by 4, you might need to do a bus stop sum. So 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice. The answer is 12. Right, now we're on to a squared plus b squared plus c squared. So we're going to have to square the numbers. So a squared, a is negative 1, so it becomes negative 1 squared. Add. B is 2, so 2 squared. Add. C is 3, and it's squared as well. Okay, so remember, squaring means multiply by itself. So you've got negative 1 times negative 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times 3. Right, negative times a negative is positive. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so 1 add 4 is 5. 5 add 9 is 14. So the final answer is 14. Right, a squared minus b squared. So a is negative 1. Take away b squared is 2. Right, so negative 1 times negative 1. Negative times a negative is positive. 1 times 1 is 1, so that's just 1. Take away 2 squared. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. 1 take away 4 is negative 3. That's the final answer. Right, we now have something in a bracket. So let's put the numbers in. A is negative 1. A times B is 2. C is 3. Times D is 4. And that's all in a bracket, and the whole thing in the bracket is squared. We then have minus e squared, and e is negative 2 squared. Okay, so BODMAS, we do what's in the bracket first, so we look at this. So negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, plus 3 times 4, we do a multiply before we do an add. 3 times 4 is 12, squared, minus, right, negative 2 squared is negative 2, in fact I'll maybe just write that out in full. That's negative 2 times negative 2. Okay. Right, in this bracket, negative 2 plus 12, that's got a value of 10. So that bracket evaluates to 10, and then we have to square it. And then we have minus negative times a negative gives us a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. Take away 4. Answer is 96. Okay, last one for question 4. Right, this symbol here you should recognise as the square root. Because it's over the whole thing, that'll be the last thing that we do. So we'll just do a big square root sign. AE in a bracket. So let's put a bracket. A is -1, need another bracket, times E is -2. Okay, so you've got A times E inside this bracket, and then it's squared. And then we take away C, which has got a value of 3. Okay, but make sure that square root sign's over the whole thing. Okay, so keep the square root sign. Right, let's do this first. -1, because it's in the bracket here. Okay, so -1 times -2. Negatives times a negative is a positive. 1 times 2 is 2. So this bracket here becomes 2. And the whole thing is squared. -3. Okay. Right, so we're going to have a square root over this. 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4, -3. Okay, still have our square root sign. 4 take away 3 is 1. What is the square root of 1? What times itself gives you 1? 1 times 1 is 1, so the square root of 1 is 1. That's that finished.